Igneous rocks are also identified by their composition, so the minerals that make up the rocks in the first place. Now remember, rocks are a conglomeration of one or more minerals. We can identify igneous rocks based on their texture and composition. Now remember, if you were in my lecture, or if you look through the PowerPoint for igneous rocks for this lab, you know that there are 4 main categories of igneous rock compositions. Those are felsic, intermediate, mafic, and ultramafic. The difference between felsic and mafic is essentially how much silica makes up the minerals within the igneous rock in the first place. So more felsic rocks will contain more minerals that contain silicate, SiO2, in its mineral structures. For our felsic rocks, we have some examples here. For your intermediate rocks, you have some rock examples here. And for your mafic rocks, you have some examples here. It is important to note that the difference most readily seen between felsic and mafic rocks is essentially their colors. So felsic rocks, those that contain more silica in it, are more light colored because they contain mostly light colored minerals. So remember, our more siliceous minerals like quartz and potassium feldspar and muscovite are all lighter colored minerals. Whereas the more mafic minerals, those that contain less silica, so less SiO2 in its mineral composition, they are going to be mostly comprised of the dark colored minerals. So those include olivine and pyroxene and amphibole and biotite. So in your rock box, when you're identifying your igneous rocks, the first thing you want to look at is whether or not is that igneous rock light or dark colored. So, for example, in your rock and mineral box, if you see this igneous rock sample just like this one, you can see that it's mostly comprised of the light colored minerals, which means that it is most likely that this rock could be of felsic or intermediate compositions. But then if you are more familiar with actual minerals that make up this rock, then you can determine whether or not it's going to be more felsic or more intermediate. So this rock right here contains an abundance of biotite, so these darker colored minerals. It also contains this nice pink mineral, which is potassium feldspar. And then all of the clear whitish looking minerals in there are quartz. So this is a granite because it is made of the common minerals that make up a granite, which is quartz, potassium feldspar, and biotite, with a little bit of muscovite in there too. Conversely speaking, you also have a sample in your box that looks just like this dark colored rock. So thinking about whether or not it could be more felsic or more mafic. Remember, mafic contains mostly dark colored minerals, which means that this rock looks like it most likely contains those dark colored minerals, which is in fact true. All of these minerals right here, which you can kind of see shining on the lens here, the camera, all of these ones are all little pyroxene crystals. And all the greenish looking minerals, which are hard to see on the camera, those are all olivines, which means that this rock contains more of the mafic minerals, which are olivine and pyroxene. So this is a very good example of a gabbro, which is also in your box. And then we have a rock that looks like it's in between, where it looks like it could be both comprised of these light colored minerals, but also comprised of these dark colored minerals. So this is a good example of an intermediate igneous rock. And in fact, this is an andesite. So as you can see, when you are first taking a look at your igneous rocks, the easiest thing to do would be to first narrow down its composition. Do you think it is felsic, intermediate, or mafic? And then, once you determine whether it's felsic, intermediate, or mafic, then you can begin to narrow it down by these different kinds of rock types, these different kinds of rock categories. Now, as you see, these type rocks that are for each one of these compositional categories, they're then split by their textures. So then, after you identify whether or not you think this rock is felsic, intermediate, or mafic, then you want to then determine its texture. So does it look like it's fragmented, or glassy, or aphanitic, or phaneritic, or maybe a combination of the both, so porphyritic.